Welcome to Thoughts That Matter. My name is James Barrow. You're about to watch a conversation that I shot with Jarod Diehl. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him for over 10 years. He's a student at Wright State, and today we're discussing pride. So I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. Are your thoughts on pride generally good or generally bad? Do you think that pride is usually a good thing or a bad thing, or is it neutral?
Well, I don't know. Biblically speaking, pride is like the root to all evil. Like it's a bad thing. But I don't know. What's interesting about the word pride is like when you think about pride in other things, like I'm proud of you, or I'm proud of my son, or I'm proud of this, work that I just finished. Um, those are like positive connotations, right? So like I'm happy about this and I should be because it was hard, or, they did something great, or whatever it is. You can be proud in a good way. Um, yeah, I don't know.
So what makes that pride different than the pride that you described as being the root of all evil? What I guess the key difference that I see is the object, right? It says the object of the pride. If you're proud about you, it sounds like that's an issue, but pride in something else is okay. I'm not completely sure, but I think that sounds reasonable. I think that plays out for the most part. So how does humility fit into it? Is humility like the opposite of pride? And what's appropriate in humility? Because this is something that we talk about as like a virtue. I think it is a virtue, but how it plays out, practically speaking, is not the same for everyone. And I think people have different ideas of what being humble is, and what actions are virtuous and what actions are not. So, what are your thoughts on humility and how it ties into pride?
I guess technically speaking, it is the exact opposite of pride. That being said, it's still the object of the pride. So me being proud of something else or someone else is allowing something else or someone else to take credit for whatever it is, therefore humbling myself, right? And so I'm showing pride in it, but not being proud of myself, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I guess we're basically saying that the bad kind of pride is really just pride in yourself, and when you are proud in someone else, that's actually a part of being humble.
Well, okay, yes, but you can be proud of yourself without being like conceited.
Okay.
Right. Does that make sense? Like proud of your accomplishments or proud of, I don't know, whatever it is. You can still be proud of yourself as long as you understand that it wasn't solely you that's responsible for whatever it is.
Okay. Who else would you give credit to?
God.
Okay. Yeah. So the root of the evil in pride is
taking credit away from God.
It's taking credit away from God. I think that that's right. From a Christian perspective, the root of the reason why pride is a bad thing, at least in the Christian faith, is that we believe that God is ultimately responsible for what happens and that he deserves all the credit for the good that happens. And so when you take pride in your work, even if that is just recognizing God's blessings on you and recognizing that you've benefited from those and being proud of what you're able to accomplish through God is one thing, but being proud apart from God is something totally different. Does that sound right? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah.
So the root of the evil is removing God from the equation. That's why pride or arrogance or conceitedness is sin in the Christian faith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then humility. So I think that's good. We've kind of defined pride. Humility is, so we call it the opposite of pride. But how does it play out? What would you call a humble act?
A humble act. I mean, like we said, I think it could really be anything as long as you allocate the credit appropriately.
Okay.
You know, you can do anything with humbleness. It's not, you know, a humble act versus a prideful act. It can be the exact same act, but how you view it, how you see it, where you give the credit.
So that's good. So humility is proper attribution. That's all it is. Is that what we're saying? It's attributing what's happened properly. So if you were responsible for something, you know, there wasn't any other human help involved, and so you acknowledge the part you played in it and give credit to God, then that can still be humble. I guess that's what we would typically refer to as taking pride in your work.
Sure.
Appropriately. Okay. So what about the person who is so there's this we've all seen someone who's kind of like falsely humble, right?
Wait, what do you mean falsely humble?
I guess beats himself up over or tries to inflate the negative attributes in themselves just to I guess to be overly humble in an attempt to not be arrogant or not be prideful, ignores the good that they see in themselves, or ignores some of their better traits, or pretends, whether it's intentionally or not, kind of denies that those are there. That I'm actually really good at swimming or working or whatever it is. They kind of beat themselves up in an attempt to deflate their own arrogance. Is that real humility, or is that something else? Because I have an opinion on this, but I want to hear what you think.
Okay. To answer that question, I'm not entirely sure if that is a true humbling act or if that's negative towards you. I think that a lot of times you end up referring to that because you may be prideful in other aspects of your life that maybe people don't even know about. You know, like I work out a lot. I'm prideful about my body, but I don't,
Sure.
you know, post things on Instagram, and I don't, you know, tell everybody about it. But that's something that I struggle with. And so maybe when I do something else, like, I don't know, I bowl a 300, let's say, theoretically, that's never going to happen. But if that were to happen and I say, oh, you know, that was nothing, you know, it wasn't me, or, well, you know, whatever it is, maybe that's overcompensating for something else that's
Sure.
in your life, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that act is necessarily humbling, or maybe it's just misplaced sense of humbleness.
So a phrase that I've always heard that I felt like really captures true humility well is that humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. So when you're humble, truly humble, it's not that you have to compensate or you have to devalue your own self. In fact, you can have a very honest opinion of yourself and you'd be like, yeah, I'm really good at this. But you just don't think about it that much. It's just not something that you worry about. It's something that you accept, and you properly attribute the credit where it's due, acknowledging your own where it's due to you, you know, in terms of at least human accomplishments, and then you move on. You just think of yourself less. I've always thought that was good. It captured the spirit of true humility better than anything else I've ever thought about when it came to humility, because everything else just seems dishonest, right? If you are good at something, I think it's much more, certainly much more attractive when you're willing to be like, yeah, I'm great at this, and I use the fact that I'm great at this to do more things, you know, to better myself, to better other people, whatever. But just acknowledging that I think can still be very much in line with humility. That's just something I've heard since I was a little kid, and I thought it was a good summary of what humility is. Thinking of yourself less.
Yeah, I like that a
I'm
lot.
sorry, thinking less of yourself.
I had it right the first time. To avoid the confusion in the future, I'm going to try to use the word about. So that would be humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking about yourself less.
How does this play into self-esteem? Because we are told in this day and age that we have, self-esteem issues, or people have low self-esteem, and that's a bad thing. Um, is self-esteem a virtue? Is it a good thing in and of itself? Um, is it something that we should be encouraging in kids or in people? Um,
So, okay, go ahead. You can continue.
no, I'm that's the question.
Okay. I would say that self-esteem is a good thing. It might be a little bit overly emphasized in our society. But to be completely honest with you, I think that like actual low self-esteem, things that like hinder people from success is like a big issue.
Uh-huh.
Now, self-esteem is kind of an interesting way of describing how you view yourself, I suppose. But it's different for everybody, like why you view yourself lowly or whatever it is. I honestly think that it's like a really large issue. Like it hinders people from success more than they think it does. Now, I'm not sure that other people can help with that, or if that's something that you have to realize yourself to be able to improve. I
Okay,
suppose
so
I mean,
explain the negative consequences of having low self-esteem.
well, it's a slippery slope. Like, let's say this is something I struggle with a bit. Grades, right?
Sure.
I don't have the best grades in the world.
Okay.
I know that about myself, right? But I get extremely frustrated with that, and it lowers my self-esteem. Like I'm an idiot because I can't pass a test, whatever it
Sure.
is, right? What that ends up doing is I do bad on one test, makes me think, okay, I'm bad at all tests. Okay, I'm bad at school. All right, maybe I'll flunk out. Maybe I'll never get a job. Maybe I'll be a loser, sitting on the side of the road for the rest of my life. So it's a slippery slope of your self-esteem.
So what's
but
the root of that, though?
leading.
I think that the root of that low self-esteem is pride, as we defined it earlier. Or the antidote to that is humility, as we've defined it, thinking less
Right,
of yourself.
The humility is exactly where it should be. So it's not. So it's understanding that God made you the way that you are, and you're bad at good things and good at other things on purpose, and
Right.
being okay with that, regardless of what it is, right?
Right. And I think that, I mean, and yeah, and you can plan to get better. You don't have to just accept things the way they are. But I think
Sure,
that
absolutely.
I think that the antidote to low self-esteem, or at least the problem with it, is that you're thinking too much of yourself, and the way to get
Right.
better self-esteem is just to think of yourself less and to think of other people, and once you start doing that, you won't care as much about that slippery slope. It's not gonna affect you quite as much. And so I think that low self-esteem is another example of pride, of thinking of yourself, of directing your attention too much on yourself and less on other people and God, where it should be. So I think that they're two sides. I think really arrogance and low self-esteem are two sides of the same coin, and there's this middle area. Well, not even really in the middle, but there's just this better area of humility, where you're just not even focused so much on yourself. You're focused on other people,
Right.
and God, and other things. So it's not taking the focus off of you. It helps both those issues: the low self-esteem and the arrogance.
Right.
So yeah, Is that any issues with that? I think that's right. All right. So we've covered pride, humility, self-esteem. So I guess to get back to the practical side of things, should we be encouraging higher self-esteem, or is that the wrong approach to take? Do we need to be encouraging acts of service instead? Because that makes people feel better. It makes people feel better about themselves, but it kind of takes the focus off of themselves. Or is there another approach that we should be taking rather than, someone is overweight or does bad at school or whatever, they have low self-esteem. I guess the idea is that they're not recognizing their good sides. They're only focusing on their bad sides. How do you fix that? How do you take the focus off of self and onto something else? And I don't really know.
Yeah, it's a complicated question. Yeah, and it's probably different for everybody. Making that, or rather having that realization, making a conscious decision to focus on something else. And that where I struggle there is sometimes you need to focus on yourself to better certain things.
Sure.
Like there are things in your life that you can change that maybe affect your self-esteem. Let's say being overweight. You could make a conscious decision, and obviously it's different for everybody, and not everybody can do it as easy as other people and things of that sort, but you can still make a conscious decision to be better at that.
Absolutely.
It's not easy at all, regardless of what you're trying to do, better grades or, better job or whatever you're trying to achieve. Making a conscious decision to better that, I think, is a good thing. And that can probably help your self-esteem too, like focusing on whatever is causing you to have.
And isn't it funny though that we hear that the first thing you have to do to fix a problem is to admit that it's a problem. And so if being overweight was the problem, right? If we just encourage high self-esteem for the sake of high self-esteem, it would really be almost encouraging denial. I think we do it a lot. Denial of the problem, denial of the fact that you're overweight and you need to lose weight. Maybe you shouldn't be proud of yourself in that way. It's like once you admit, yeah, this is a problem, then you're in a place to actually improve. And so just encouraging high self-esteem for the sake of it isn't helping in any way. So I come back to, is self-esteem a virtue? And I don't think that it is. Again, just being honest with yourself, I think, is a good thing. And being honest with yourself where you're good at things, because everyone's good at some things and not great at other things.
Yeah.
I think that I think is a virtue or is a good thing in and of itself. But just inflating your self-esteem, I don't think is. Well, I don't know. I think we've basically exhausted the topic.
I mean, it's just how do I phrase this? It's a like I need things now society.
Yeah.
Right. And so the whole push for self-esteem, being happy with where you are right now, I think is just a reflection of that. Not having to work on it. It's, having good self-esteem or being humble or being proud or whatever it is. It's not, rather fixing the problem, realizing what the problem is, trying to fix that is not an easy process, like at all. It's going to be extremely difficult regardless of what it is. It's going to take a lot of hard work and no one wants to do that. And so I think that's why there's such a big push for be happy with where you are, right? Which in a certain sense, like you should be happy with where you are and who you are and what you're able to do and what you're not able to do.
Well, no, you should be happy with what you're able to do, but you shouldn't necessarily be happy with what you're not able to do. Maybe that is something that should motivate you to do better. I think that's where we get into trouble when we start trying to be happy about the things that we shouldn't be happy about. You can be happy overall, but maybe we don't need to be happy about. And I think that's where the self-esteem movement, I take issue with it because it's telling people to be happy about things that they should be happy about.
Okay, Jarod had to go. Technology forced him to go, so we weren't able to finish the conversation. If you would like to continue it, please do let me know at thoughtsmattershow@gmail.com. I'd love to have you on the show. If you have any thoughts on this topic or another topic, I'm always interested to talk to people. So that being said, I definitely don't know all the answers here. So I need your input. I need your ideas. The whole point of this show is to get at truth and to grow as a community, as a group. So if you have ideas, I want to hear them.